live from coming to you live from the Sith Temple on Exegol. This is the May the 4th Star Warriors podcast.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, we're live. So before I introduce everyone, I want to let you guys know who are watching in. We are doing a giveaway. On the bottom of the screen, you can see Colin building a Lego figurine mask face thing. If you can show off the box, that'd be awesome really quick.
All right. Yeah, what we're doing is we're doing the Lego Darth Vader helmet, the companion of.
Nice. So when we get to our last question and last answer, we're going to be shutting down comments at that point, and a winner will be announced at the end of the show. So comment in for a chance to win. Before we roll through the questions, let's introduce everyone. I'm going to start with Casey. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Casey, and I am one of the many-headed Hydra who run DFAT Entertainment and all-around Star Wars geek, in case you didn't know. Wrong side.
Over to Rocco.
I'm Rocco of the Critical Mass podcast and proud member of the DFAT family. And I am also a super Star Wars nerd, and I just can't wait to nerd out with you guys tonight.
Colin.
I am Colin, and I am just so incredibly thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for considering me in all of this. It's just an honor to be amongst you all, and I'm just thrilled beyond belief.
Moses.
I am Moses, and like everyone else here, huge fan of our beloved Star Wars. So I'm super excited we get to all be together and talk about our favorite thing.
And Chris.
I'm Chris, also one of the many heads of DFAT Entertainment. Don't forget a towel and whatnot, and avid Star Wars lover since who knows when, like the rest of us, since the beginning of our collective memories. So looking forward to it. May the 4th be with us all.
And as we keep going through this, pay attention to the bottom of the screen to watch Colin just build with Legos, multitasking a podcast and a Lego build at the exact same time. Of course, I am your host today, Jake Duel of the Fates, and I will be taking you through our May 4th extravaganza. Don, what? Colin's building Legos down at the bottom. It's awesome. Watch in. That can be your focus. So, our first question of the day. What is your favorite moment in Star Wars canon? We're going to start off with Casey.
So this is a really hard question. Really hard. Because you said all of canon. So at first I was like, oh, okay, I can pick something from the original trilogy. And then I'm like, but wait. All of canon? Clone Wars, Rebels, like Mando, and then my brain literally melted. This is very, very hard. But it does remain true throughout every trilogy and all of the canon. I would say my favorite moment is just Binary Sunset, and it's used many different ways. Obviously, it started in New Hope and with Luke looking off into his future. And my favorite music plays, and I just love that scene as it is. But then it gets echoed in other pieces. So like I remember Revenge of the Sith the first time in the theater. I loved it. And I was like, oh, okay, this is great. This is the end. We're never going to see this again. And I was already upset, and then he became Vader, and I was like, okay, this is cool, whatever. And then they go back to Tatooine, and I was like, why? And I was weeping. So Binary Sunset forever.
Geez, right off the bat, and I'm going last on each of these questions. and you steal my answer. That scene with Luke looking over the binary sunset is just amazing, and you have to steal it. So now I've got a couple people that I get to think of another favorite moment in canon on.
Sorry,
So-
not sorry.
Any honorable mentions?
I don't know. Anyone else have anything to add to Casey's favorite moment from canon?
I knew that was going to be Casey, so definitely not doubling up, now tripling up on that. So it did make me think a little bit harder about that. So
Well, Rocco, I know it's probably going to be some sort of dad fetish about Darth Vader, so let's hop over to you and hear what your favorite moment is.
It's very as oddly specific. Actually, no. For me, I would say, and I kind of to go with what Casey said. This was a very tough thing to really think of, because when you say canon, the first thing you do think of is the original trilogy. I mean, I think we can all agree there. And then you realize how vast canon really is, and you're like, wow, okay, so I got to really actually think about this. But of course, with it, I mean, I come back to the original trilogy, and I'd have to say my absolute favorite moment in canon is Yoda training Luke on Dagobah and deriving so much philosophy even at a young age, on that, when Yoda goes off and says, luminous beings are we, that whole thing, just absolutely mind-blowing, being a young person watching that for the first time, and then growing up and understanding the many layers to it as you become an adult. And it was awesome. My favorite quote of all the films is in that scene when Luke says, "I don't believe it," when he lifts the X-Wing out of when Yoda lifts the X-Wing, and Yoda says, "That is why you fail." And again, that in itself, I think really, really solidified my love of Star Wars in that moment.
Yeah, and Rocco, I think that's a really good point, because it's also the first time we're really getting to see the true power of the Jedi, because
Mhm.
Obi-Wan doesn't show much to Luke early on. He deflects some blaster bolts and uses the Force. But that scene of Yoda lifting an X-Wing led all the way to the legend scenes of Starkiller stopping a Star Destroyer mid-air.
I mean, yeah, I remember that. I remember being also kind of young and playing that game and being like, how is he pulling a Star Destroyer? I don't know. To this day, it's still
Don't question it ever.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I won't.
How dare
But
you.
yeah, that's a good point, Jake. I mean, really actually seeing the full power of a Jedi, not really even the full power, but the immense power of a Jedi, and seeing Yoda, this little green thing, use his mind to levitate a large, starfighter. Pretty crazy stuff.
And I want to take a moment to recognize our commenters watching live. Joaquin, right up front, yeah, Luke appearing in the end of Mando was a mind blown. I know we all talked about that in our Mando episode. And Don, Ahsoka being kicked out of the Order and refusing to come
Yep.
back. Oh,
Yeah.
that's a huge thing. And Ahsoka's, I think, a lot of ours, we love that character.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
Don,
yeah,
I have a
Ahsoka's great.
screenshot of a close-up of the hands when she gives him back the keepsake. That man, that scene is so good.
Wasn't that her braid that
Yeah.
she?
When she
was
had that
that
little
it?
keepsake. No, it was it her braid, or was it it was a little talisman? But I think she had it on her braid. I don't know if she gave the whole thing,
Or
just,
she doesn't have hair, so maybe that
No,
was.
Oh, I'm
no,
pretty
no.
sure it was the
like
youngling braid.
Yeah, but did she give the whole thing or just the talisman? I forgot.
I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was the whole
whole thing.
braid itself was
Yeah,
what
dude,
she
that-
gave
that-
back to
that
him.
Scene where Filoni just captured that close
Yes.
of the hand giving it back. My heart just broke. I was like, oh man, how are you doing this to us?
And to another one of our commenters. Dan, yeah, the dual lightsaber in episode 1, Duel of the Fates kicking in, and I think any of us who watched that Star Wars roundtable and heard Dave Filoni talking about the importance of Duel of the Fates and what that actually meant, that's got to be a huge scene as well. So
yeah, it's one of the best scenes of all time.
Yeah.
And one of the best songs of all time.
it's one of
100%.
the best segments in a Star Wars movie that overall is not a good movie until like the last 40 minutes.
I still think it's the best lightsaber fight. Personally,
Yes.
I love the choreography of that one. I mean, it was just
I mean, I don't want to spoil anyone's favorite scene, but still the best lightsaber fight is Maul and Obi-Wan
yes.
in
Oh, you got that Seven Samurai kind
yeah,
of.
that
Yes,
best
100%.
fight.
Wait, are you talking about?
Yeah,
Oh, never,
it's
never
them
mind.
two together. You put them together on screen and it works.
Rebels. Rebels.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rebels. Yeah.
I don't know. Ahsoka and Maul too in the final season of Clone Wars. I mean, I'd have to say that's one because that was a mocap too. That
You
wasn't
guys
even just animation.
Sorry.
I know.
Sorry,
Checking off
Sorry.
lists.
sorry.
Some of us
Dan.
made lists, and some of us are running out of ideas here.
Let's hop over to Moses so that we can get through this without stealing
I've been
everyone's
thinking-
ideas.
I've been thinking about this question like for the past week, and it's so hard because like my first memories are watching Star Wars. Like it's ingrained to me. Like I knew Star Wars before I even had the memory of watching Star Wars. It was just always there. And I think growing up, one of the most vivid portions were like the cave in Empire, where he goes in and the mask, and it was just so confusing as a 4 or 5 year old at the time. And then like later on, I think growing up, it was, when in Return, when Luke confronts Vader and, sister, et cetera, et cetera. But I think if we're going to talk of full canon, Rebels holds a very, very special place in my heart. I feel like Rebels has perfectly combined itself with everything. It's with The Mandalorian, with the original trilogy, with the prequels, with Clone Wars. It's tied itself in better than any other show has tied itself in with the rest. And one of my favorite all-time Jedis is Kanan. And so I don't know if we're allowed to talk about spoilers because this is such a big moment. If you haven't seen
Do
Rebels,
not do. Don't.
Don't
yeah, okay,
go
so I'm
there.
not talking about it. We all know there's a moment with Kanan. It's to me one of the most fantastic moments of storytelling. If you haven't seen Rebels, go watch Rebels. Please go watch Rebels. It's some of the best Star Wars. And yes, there's a moment with Kanan, and that's probably my all-time favorite like Star Wars moment. I mean, the whole episode was geniusly directed. It's just the way it builds up. Yeah, I'm going to stop there so I don't spoil anything.
Yeah, to add on to the Rebels stuff, I really feel like Rebels is where Filoni hit his world building at that point. Because like Clone Wars, he's filling in the gaps that the Clone Wars movie left between, episode 2 and 3. But in Rebels, he builds an entire world that has now been referenced in Mando, in the other TV series, and just is huge. And like also gave us just the great thing of time travel that was used well and hasn't been touched again since.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I just loved how it tied in. I mean, ever since then, we have Chopper, and you could physically see Chopper in Rogue One, right? In one of the scenes. And I mean, they've just the way it just connected to everything. I like Rebels to me is almost the center of everything else because of how perfectly it ties in with everything else without stepping on any toes, without kind of creating any controversies or any issues with how the story is told. But such a good show. Yeah.
And to hop over to one of our commenters really quick, Bobby, I think some of us have seen The Bad Batch, so we'll keep out of spoilers. I watched it today, and I'm going to be honest with you, I don't love the Call of Duty Clone Troopers, but it was a pretty great episode of television today.
It was a great episode.
I'm gonna keep watching.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Once we're done here, that's where
Quick
I'm
thing.
going.
One who grew up idolizing everything Star Wars that had to do with lightsabers and Jedi because there was like some sort of code of honor that was deeper in it. Bad Batch and Clone Wars have completely and utterly changed my appreciation for non-Force wielders. And like you said, Jake, this is a great start. It does something that, takes these 80s trope characters that each of these are based off of. I mean, quite literally, we have Rambo in the lead of this group, and he is so much more in depth already in the first hour and 10 minutes of this show.
I do have one thing to say to the
Can't wait.
Bad Batch without spoilers here. I've been calling them the Call of Duty clone troopers up till now. After today's episode, I question if they're D&D characters. Like
That's what I've been thinking about them.
They're more D&D characters.
Yeah.
And Ruben, we miss you, but you're correct. We are all very sexy men on this podcast. So
No one else, though. Speaking of them, no one else gets the Expendables vibe from them, because personally, that's the first thing I thought of was this is the Expendables of Star Wars. Like, you got your Stallone, you got your Schwarzenegger, you got your like, I mean, really, they're all there. The smart one.
You're not wrong.
all right, Chris, we'll hop over to you to get your favorite moment in canon.
Yeah, this was a tough one. And I'm going to transition from Moses a little bit as well, because Rebels, the one I really picked was from Rebels. And what I felt about that was that Rebels started new canon. It was, the first book was New Dawn. That animated series came out right out of the gate. And it was Disney throwing this great storyline at us, which also related back to the Clone Wars, which goes back to, Legends time, but was brought over to new canon, of course. And so to watch that show, and all of us are big fans, and it is such a great it's so much different than Clone Wars, and I think that's what's special about it. And it takes place during my favorite time period, which is the Civil War. And Ahsoka being that link between the old and the new, I think that was always one of the biggest things for me. I remember when Clone Wars was first coming out, and it was kind of just like, oh, Anakin has an apprentice, and it was kind of a silly thing at first, and people were just either they embraced it or they didn't. And that movie didn't do really any favors at first. It grows on you, but at first it does it. But then that TV show, of course, matures. But her link, and I don't want to get into spoilers here either, but just when she comes in during the Siege of Lothal, and they realize that she's what's her code name? I'm drawing a blank. Nonetheless,
Fulcrum.
When she realizes, yes, thank you, Fulcrum, and she realizes who Darth Vader is. That's a huge moment for me, just because living with Star Wars for so long, and then having a link like that to something new, that was a time when I thought canon was really blooming well, and that I really loved that. Other than that, if I'm going to go back to the movies like OT, it's definitely the Jabba's palace sequence. The entire thing, it's my favorite thing about Star Wars ever. Epic.
I cried when Ahsoka realized who Darth Vader was. That scene was amazing, and yeah, absolutely amazing. Ruben, to your Fast and Furious clones, I don't know if they're the Fast and Furious clones, but I now want to see Fast and Furious Tatooine about pod racing. It's the movie we know we want.
Oh my god!
You want.
I would
Vin
definitely
Diesel,
watch this.
playing
We all
pod
would watch
racer.
it. We would all watch it. We just make fun of it, Space Vin Diesel.
Space,
Right, but is
Groot-like
this
character.
Vin Diesel's Star Wars role?
I think it
Riddick,
is.
he's already out in the desert anyway.
With his eye shine, all.
Yes.
So, over to our Lego master, Colin. I hope we didn't steal all of your favorite moments, and you still have one.
Well, no, you didn't, but you touched base on one of them, and it was the fight between Ahsoka and Maul. That is my absolute favorite moment, and I've gone through a lot. Like you guys, I'm in my mid-30s. I grew up idolizing everything Star Wars. I've watched The Return of the Jedi more times than I can count, and it's, to me, I come back to that fight numerous times because of what it represented to fans. Because when we saw that fight in episode 1 and Darth Maul comes out, he's got a double-bladed lightsaber. He's so badass. And then suddenly he's dead 15, 20 minutes later, cut in half. Oh, okay, so one of the coolest bad guys that's ever been in Star Wars is now gone. And then suddenly he's back in Clone Wars, brought back to life by a nerd just like us, a guy who was raised by Star Wars and George Lucas. And that was huge. I mean, I remember just like losing my mind when Maul was back and somehow still alive despite being sliced in half. But, you know, Star Wars, the Force. And then on top of it, we fall in love with this character of Ahsoka and what she represents to our knowledge of Star Wars, the Force, and the Jedi, and how she just makes it so much deeper. She makes it so much more human. I know she's not a human, but you know, she makes it so much more relatable. And then there's the human aspect to it, the personal side of it, how the Jedi are flawed, but it doesn't turn you to the dark side by realizing that. And then those two beloved characters, a creation of a Star Wars fan and the resurrection from a Star Wars fan, dueling it out in one of the most beautiful choreographed fights with lightsabers I've ever seen in any Star Wars movie, let alone in any sort of swordplay movie. It was just so beautifully done. And that moment I could just watch over and over and over, just in how good it looked, but also what it meant to Star Wars fans in that moment.
I think a good part that makes that battle so good is a lot of the characters. I mean, other than the Emperor, who's been in all of them, but he's always just been the bad guy. Most of the villains, especially the Force wielding Sith ones, have been kind of like, oh, here's the bad guy, he's done. Even like Maul was done at first, and Maul was the first one, along with Asajj Ventress, where you actually saw them struggling to become, even if they were struggling to become like a bad guy, they were still struggling. They were still working their plans, and you almost not identified, but you got to see their growth. You got to see more characters in them, and so I feel like he might be a bad guy, but you really like Maul by that point. You know what I mean? And even the lead up to there, where he knows something's going on, like about the Emperor's plan, like. It's just like, it's not just Ahsoka versus a bad guy or versus a bad guy who's back. It's Ahsoka versus this guy who's been around for the past, 2 seasons at that point. And we've been seeing him dealing. I don't know. There's something about Maul's character who's more ingrained in the entire storyline versus him just showing up for a fight, you know what I mean, as the big bad guy, the big boss. And yeah, that agreed, man. That battle was awesome.
Well, yeah, and if you even double up on exactly what you both were saying, Maul's appearance with his metal legs in the Solo movie, to even take that even further, like exactly like you said, Colin, and just pushing it all the way till it comes back full circle, and now he's actually a live action film again. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, because you get those people who don't watch Clone Wars or they don't watch the cartoon shows, who are just like, you know what, I'm a fan of the movies, I'll go see Solo, and then suddenly pop, there is Darth Maul at the very, very end, and you're just, what? And then I've seen people, locally who talked about how they never watched those shows until they saw that movie, and they're like, wait, what's going on? How is he still alive? Oh, you got to watch this to see what's going on. They're like, crap. and now they are even deeper in the lore. They're going, why wasn't I watching this sooner? They're talking about it more. It's just like the ultimate gateway drug in that moment to just get more and more people to watch more and more of this incredible lore that has been created originally by George, but now furthered by Filoni.
So here's a question. It's common that Maul lived and it's questionable how, but it's because the dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities that some would consider unnatural. Do you think that Palpatine might have taught him Plagueis's life extension skill and he used that to survive? I mean, we're getting deep into heavy potential not canon stuff to even get there, but he does mention it in Revenge of the Sith, and he was Pelp's apprentice for a while.
Could be.
I think it's spite. I think it's he's alive out of spite, Maul, you know.
I'll second that.
And
He just had hatred in him, man. So much hatred is just like keeping his heart beating. Even if he lost his mind, he just hates.
yeah, to our commenter here, I'm not sure if Mace Windu has the same amount of hatred to have survived his tumble through Coruscant air. I really don't know.
Plus, that was out of a building. It's different when you fall down a big circle like that. There you survive.
Yeah, because at the end of those
was
big
also cut in
circular
half.
things, there's slides. Luke proved it. At the end of every
Exactly.
circular thing, there's a slide. It's how the Emperor lived too. He reached a slide and then transferred his essence
There
into
you go.
episode 9.
All making sense now.
It's all making sense. All right, so for my favorite moment in canon, it has to be when they introduced Babu Frick.
Oh, shots fired. Shots fired.
That's
No,
not funny.
Oh, dang.
Come
look at close
on.
up. Oh, look at the close up.
No, for real though, my favorite moment in canon, since so
Hey.
many great moments were taken, actually goes to Dooku Jedi Lost. And Dooku's got two origins to how he became a Sith. There's the one that's in the Darth Plagueis novel that's really lightly touched on, and then there's Jedi Lost. And I think that concept that Dooku was trying to do something so good for Sereno and trying to save it, and he force connected with a dark side creature that lived under his city that he grew up, or that his family was from, and the dark side essence like literally transferred into him, bringing him to the dark side. And then that book ending with him having his own sister who he was trying to save throughout the book murdered because she was a traitor. Just, I never loved Dooku, but that character was just so well expanded in that book.
Gonna read that book.
Yeah, I think it's audiobook only, or they just put it out physically.
No, they
This
don't
year.
have a physical. It's in my cart. It's just I'm a slow reader.
For a while, it was audiobook only, and I think this year was the year it came out physical. So
That's correct.
that's my favorite moment that wasn't already taken. Before we move on to our second question, I want to remind our viewers, Colin is building a Lego down here at the bottom, and we will be doing a giveaway near the end of the show. So keep commenting to get a chance to win. Moving on to our second question, let's hop into Legends. So when Disney took over Star Wars, they only kept the 6 movies and the Clone Wars at the time canon, and all the other stuff that was created, Thrawn, all that other stuff thrown into Legends. Now a lot of that has been brought back into canon through Rebels and Clone Wars, but now we're in Legends territory. So what's your favorite moment in Legends, starting off with Casey?
Okay. Again, very hard. But I am going to kind of piggyback off a little bit of what you just mentioned, which is the Darth Plagueis book. I could just say the entire book because it's that good, and I've yelled at all of you guys probably to read it at least once. But Jake took me up on it. Thank you. And it's just, I wish it was canon, or I wish they would at least figure out a way that what is told in that book, which I believe is James Lucino, who does amazing Star Wars book work authoring, that they take some of it and you know, do what they're gonna do with the Disney end of it and adapt some of it. But that right there, especially when the Senator Palpatine kills him, and it's just I don't know why that's such a good scene, but it's just it's so Palpatine, and you just feel it. It's no spoilers. We all know he killed him. Okay, so
What?
that's my favorite canon. Just that book, I loved it. Or sorry, Legends.
It is James Lucino. I just
Yeah,
checked to make sure. That's awesome.
There is a complete possibility that 90% of that book could be made canon. There's only a few things like Dooku's origin and probably some of the Darth Maul stuff that can flex with existing canon. And it's amazing, that book.
So
how many years before the OT? Actually, how many years before the prequels did it happen? That book.
It ends pretty much right as Anakin is getting to Coruscant, because there is a point where they're both going to meet. Plagueis and Palpatine are going to meet Anakin.
But it's before. It's at least.
I mean,
it's probably 20 or 30 years before.
I would say even
Phantom Menace.
More than that at the start, because
yeah,
Palpatine's a young man at the beginning of that book, maybe in his
20,
early 20s. So it covers a lot.
It does cover a lot
of his story.
Yeah,
and it's something that hasn't been expanded upon in canon yet.
Well, it's an Emperor story. Rise too. So that's the other thing that makes it so good is like, oh, I'm finally learning about Sheev.
Yeah, him killing his whole family too in that book is just
okay. Just throw out those spoilers, Jake.
Jeez, Jake.
We know he does it. He does
now
it.
We don't have to watch it
or
read it. Thank you.
On your note of how like a lot of these legends are becoming canon, I mean, like even from the beginning when we saw what was it, The Force Awakens, and we saw those flags at Maz's place, and we were like, oh, there's this flag and all those that flag. I think, somewhere deep down, Disney is planning on bringing a lot of that in, especially Filoni, because I'm pretty sure he grew up loving everything of it. And to quote him, which is quoting Ahsoka, they even said something like there's a quote in one of was it Rebels where she goes, someone's just like, oh, I thought that was a legend, and she's like, yeah, but there's a little truth in all legends, kind of thing, like that is straight up a reference to legends in canon. Like there's no question about that. So it's just give it a matter of time, and they're going to bring it in. They might have to adjust a little to make it work with what they're doing, but it's coming. It's part there, and I started to enjoy the legends because I didn't follow legends too much, but I started enjoying them because I'm like, as far as I'm concerned, unless it's proven not true, it's true to a certain point. Like I watched the Clone Wars, the micro series, nothing in them is untrue. So I'm like, all right, they're exaggerated truths, but it's still like canon in my eyes.
Moses, to that point, I think so I just finished the Revenge of the Sith novelization yesterday, and I listened to that on audiobook, and I'm pretty sure there's straight up a line somewhere in that book that says like, yeah, but all legends have some sort of truth to them inside that book. And I think that's considered legends. I don't know if the novelizations are canon 100% because there was definitely some stuff that conflicted with canon in that book.
But also, too, with the whole legends thing, I always thought it was super cool to have a world that is so large that not only do you have true stories, but it also has, legends that run like congruent to it. Like, even though it's all fiction, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's how big this world is. And it actually has its own fiction. It has its own fiction in the fiction, which to me, I thought that was super cool how Disney called those, these stories legend.
It's all from
Yeah,
a
I mean,
certain
it's
point of
20,
view.
25 years of storytelling. That's
Yeah.
and there's so much.
I mean, how many
And-
books were there?
Oh God,
a lot.
So let me just
many.
One series had 21 books as part of it. I mean, there's hundreds,
Oh yeah.
it was just, it's mammoth and the comics and all that stuff. And it's
Yeah.
great because you can still go back to that. You can
Yeah.
still enjoy it while we're engulfed in this new story
Mhm.
they're telling. So
Mhm.
it's great. And like you guys said, the more we bring in these Legends characters into canon, I think that's a nice nod to the past and fan service.
Oh yeah.
And to anyone who's checked out High Republic, for there being fiction within a book, minor spoiler, in High Republic, we learn there's Jedi romance novels that people read in the world. So
That's
I
great.
want to see those
I
in
read
the
them
real
all.
world. I honestly want to see what someone would say. I want to see what an actual Jedi romance novel would be, but it has to take it seriously as if it was written by someone living in the High Republic 300 years
Jeez.
before the rise of Skywalker.
I bet you that
Accurate.
He
fanfiction exists.
unsheathed his lightsaber.
Oh,
He
oh.
ignited
Unsheathed?
his saber.
With that, we'll just
and we've
hop
just
over,
hit.
We'll just
no
hop
viewer.
over to you, Rocco, to give us
Thank you.
your favorite
Where did
Legends
everybody
moment.
go? Ah.
You're welcome for that. So some folks in here, I don't know. Sorry if I'm stealing your thunder because this is like obviously a huge one. But I remember being like young and I went to I have I think a second or third uncle that owns a bookstore in the city. And I was just getting into Star Wars, and he had this very large book that was hardcover, and it had an interesting cover, and it was called Shadows of the Empire. And I remember bringing that book home and reading that front to back like 3 or 4 times, and then getting the accompanying N64 game. And just Dash Rendar and Prince Shizor. I know the podcast yesterday, Chris, I had said that I was definitely going to mention this tonight. But I mean, as far as Legends, Shadows was awesome. Shadows was absolutely such a great story to read back when I read Star Wars books and not just the comics. And the accompanying game was, I mean, guys, the Battle of Hoth, like in that 3-dimensional kind of that 3-dimensional world, it wasn't a side scroller, and you actually were flying a snow speeder and like circling around the legs. Like it was incredible. And then when everyone left, you were by yourself and having to fight your way through like snow troopers and wampas and Echo Base. I mean, that was just so much fun. And then the book, you get that whole backstory of how Princess Leia got the Bausch bounty hunter disguise, and Chewie had his own disguise. I remember I had the Power of the Force figures that were part of that line.
They look like this.
I loved that story. It was incredible. And I know right now in the comics, they're all kind of rewriting it and kind of hoping that, some of that Legends is going to get brought back into canon. But yeah, I would just say favorite Legends, flat out Shadows of the Empire. I loved it.
Awesome.
You know what's awesome about that though? I just want to mention about Shadows because Star Wars wasn't really alive for so long. There wasn't any action figures. And then starting in like the mid 90s, we started to see a little bit about that. But what Shadows did was this multimedia extravaganza event that just brought Star Wars back into the spotlight. And just like Rocco said, a book, the video games, the action figures,
Soundtrack.
comics, the soundtrack.
Yeah,
it was everything that made Star Wars, and it was just back. And it really did kind of lock in to what was to come next with the re-release of the movies in the theaters, the prequels, and more. So I loved it. It was just like reinvigorating Star Wars for a new generation.
Chris, really quick to that point, to anyone who hasn't checked out the 20th anniversary edition of Heir to the Empire, the first Thrawn book, you have to. First of all, Timothy Zahn talks all about being brought in to revive Star Wars when it's pretty much been kind of a dead property. And it's got comments on the side that he puts in. For example, before Heir to the Empire, Coruscant was called Capital City. He named it Coruscant, and George Lucas liked it so much he took it for the movies. It's a pivotal book in Legends for that type of stuff.
Mhm.
And
Next
to
up,
our
Dark Force Rising.
yes, to our commenter Bob, let's do a quick lightning round question. Just quickly answer.
That
What-
was a good one.
For each of you, what character from Star Wars would you do a show about? For me, it's Thrawn. I'm trying to actually plan a Thrawn episode of this podcast at some point. Casey, who would you do a show about?
Casey, you're on mute.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Sorry, Dash Rendar.
Ooh.
Rocco.
Cloud City Ice Cream Maker Man.
Playboy.
Moses.
I'm gonna go with R2D2, man. I mean, we're gonna need a translator. It could be C3PO, it could not, but R2D2 would be my guest. I want to hear his stories, man. He's been in all of them.
Chris.
The Max Rebo Band.
That's awesome.
Behind the music. Max
Entourage
Rebo.
style. Yeah, something like that. Just
Before he got hooked on spice.
him,
And-
that really bad Sice Noodles character. Oh man, Droopy McCool. I really want to know more about Droopy.
And Colin.
Babu Frick.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Of course.
Yeah, I
It
may
would be a
hate the
hate
character
show,
with
wouldn't-
every heart, piece of my soul,
Yes.
but I'm still be curious as to how he became important.
No, I just imagine it being like Comedy Central roast of Babu Frick, but instead of trying to be funny, it's straight up mean to Babu Frick the entire time. So
I'm just hogging the podium the whole time. They're pulling me off like, you're done. Your set was finished 5 minutes ago. I'll be like, I've got more to say.
and Ruben's bringing in more to Heir of the Empire with Talon, who was introduced in Heir as well. Ice Cream Man Steinfeld style.
Absolutely.
Love it. And Darth Bane would be also a great character, very pivotal character to Star Wars. Moses, let's get back to the main question. Hop over to you. Favorite moment in Legends?
So I didn't get that big into Legends. I mean, I know a lot of the story because my roommate back in college had read all the books. At the time, I was reading Wheel of Time and a bunch of Dragonlance books. So we basically just read our own series and shared stories. I really always wanted to read the Yuuzhan Vong and what happened to Chewie and Han because he would tell me that stuff. But yeah, I mean, I was gonna say Shadows, man. I got the original book right here. Even like the
Hell
current
yeah.
books that we watch, that we read, some of them are good, but some of them seem to have that Star Wars feel to them forced upon it. You know, there's like a scene in Rick and Morty where Morty's like, the car won't start or the spaceship won't start, and Morty's just like, oh, is it the quantum carburetor? And like Rick's like, you can't just add a science fiction word to make it, you know. And so like some of the books, and obviously, you know, you guys know what I'm talking about, it feels like they're trying to force the feel of Star Wars. And this book felt Star Wars. It was it. I love it. I've been thinking about it lately. I'm probably going to reread it once I'm done with the current High Republic book. And it's just, again, like Rocco said, you know, the game, to me, the game, the thing that's memorable about the game is the battle with IG-88, man. That leader was hard and difficult. But I also
Ord
like
Mandel.
Yeah. I like it because it wasn't just its own story, but, you know, especially at the time for a trilogy, movies didn't end with such a cliffhanger, to me at least. How Empire ends was like huge, and you're just like, what happens, you know? And so that gap between, you know, 5 and 6, between Empire and Return, was a more mysterious gap to me than the gap, for example, between 4 and 5. And so to have a story that's so well told that perfectly fits there, I mean, yeah, Shadows. I love that, and correct me if I'm wrong. Did someone notice, or maybe this is just my imagination hoping too much? Did someone notice the ship in one of the movies? Dash's
It's
ship?
in A New Hope when he leaves Coruscant or Mos
Like
Eisley.
on the re-edits or whatever, he added it.
Yeah, it's in the special edition.
Well, it's canon then.
I gotta check out Shadows. That's one thing I haven't read. so-
Really?
Yeah.
It is as Star Wars as it gets. There's no. It's just it feels Star Wars.
So I really only started getting into Legends content in the past 2 years. So I'm getting caught up on Legends content here.
Put Shadows at the top of your list. Like, no joke. Like, put Shadows just on the top.
And on
I
the
got-
comics, I forget what the series is called, but and I forget all the names. It's basically during there's the 2 Jedis that become Sith and join and are like team up with the Mandalorians to go against the Jedi. You guys probably know this better, but that's a good series for the Legend comic books.
Tales of the Jedi,
Is that one?
like thousands of years before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like they join up with the Mandalorians to have an all-out war with the freaking Jedi. I remember reading those and
You look kill drama.
yep. Oh, so good.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to be using an Audible credit towards Shadows after I finish Thrawn Ascendancy, the newest one that just came out. I just started that today. Bob, Star Wars trivia live with us, bracket style. I love it. Let's do
I'm
it
in.
at some point.
I'm in.
I would love to see what happens.
Yeah. We would actually probably be correcting Bob's answers that he got from the internet at some point because he got it from sketchy sources. But Chris, let's hop over to you. What's your favorite moment in Legends?
I am also going to go with a video game because growing up, just ingrained with the movies, watching them all the time, waiting for more content, right? So you're kind of, as a kid, you're playing with the action figures, you're making up your own stories. I didn't get a Nintendo, but I had a computer. And so one of my favorite games growing up was, I loved playing like the first person shooters of Wolfenstein and Doom. And when Dark Forces came out and created Kyle Katarn and told this story of how Kyle Katarn went and got the Death Star plans for the Rebel Alliance, that he was that guy. He was like their secret spy guy. I love that story. And now that they brought like Dark Troopers into the Mandalorian, like brought that in, that's a nice touch of things. I just, it was a great time because growing up, video games were progressing. I thought these were great graphics in 1995. I got to fight Boba Fett. And other great things. But then it spawned 3 sequels, and one of those sequels had a DLC that featured Mara Jade, which was awesome. Mysteries of the Sith. So just a lot of deep cuts in this game. And then ultimately it rebooted itself with a game called Lethal Alliance for PSP. But I won't go too far into this because it was a big topic during the video game show we did. But I loved it. I liked the fact that it was this different side of Star Wars, the spy side, which is why I'm really excited for the Cassian show that's coming up, Andor. And I think that'll be a really good time.
And for anybody who doesn't know it and is listening right now, I'm pretty sure there's a hell of a lot of sales on video games pretty much on every system right now today. So I need to add some stuff to that list there.
Do it.
Seems like Dan liked Kyle as well as a character. So let's hop over to our Lego master, who I see the bottom of Darth Vader's face there. And let's find out your favorite moment from Legends.
So you guys are talking about all these really like deep cuts that change so much of the lore, that that involve so many dark cloak and dagger kind of things. For me, it was just something that kind of built a foundation even further on a character that was already existing. At this point, the prequels hadn't come out yet, and I had been, like I said, watching Return of the Jedi ad nauseum, and I had started to read the novels that take place right afterward, the Legends novels and whatnot, Truce at Bakura, the Courtship of Princess Leia, and I can't remember which one of those two it was, but there was a moment where Luke had gotten himself like positioned in this stairwell by this alien opposing race, and he just, the only way he could get out of it was through violence, and he was so struck down with sorrow and fear that he had to do this, that he had sent out this "I'm sorry" to the galaxy and to the Force, that he had to do this. And they describe that he just lifts his saber up, ignites it, and then just floats it through the air and striking down all these bad guys. And it was just, you take those moments and you think, oh yeah, that's badass. He threw the lightsaber, made it fly through all the enemies, and that's such a cool thing to do. But he took it so heavy on him, and he never, joyed or overjoyed at the violence that he was capable of. And I thought that was such a cool moment. And I'd only read it once, but it had stuck with me for the better part of 20 years now. So I know it doesn't really change much in terms of what Legends tends to be known for, but for me, that sticks with me to this day because it just absolutely cements the awesomeness that is Luke Skywalker.
We got to find this book.
I'm pretty sure it was either Truce at Bakura or Courtship of Princess Leia, and it was when we were crash landing on the planet that we were first introduced to the witches that are
Dathomir?
that were. Yeah, I think it was Dathomir.
Then
I
it's
think it was the
Courtship.
first reference. It's Courtship. Okay.
If the Dathomir witches are in that book, then it's Courtship. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure of it. Like I said, I only read it once, but that moment just stuck with me, and I wish I could remember which book it was.
It's funny that you mentioned how such a cool move, and I haven't read that scene, but just you describing it makes me think the symbolism of he couldn't even hold his lightsaber because he didn't want to do that. He had to separate himself to do that action. So that was kind of cool. I got to put that on my to-do list now.
So I'm
Cut
gonna
people with lightsabers.
I was just about to say that. It's not reading the book. It's actually just
Without
learning
hoping.
how to throw things and slice people in half.
Moses is going to get that real lightsaber and then cut someone in half with it.
Oh,
That they
you guys
just
know
showed
I'm
off
getting
today.
that. I'm waiting for it to be freaking available for us.
What, it's going to be $6,000 or something, and
Nah,
only available
fine,
on
I'll
its
deal
Dude,
with it.
it's a measuring tape, man. Just go to Home Depot and get one of those mechanical measuring tapes that you press a button and it comes up. Same technology.
With the flashlight.
Yeah.
Well, let me bookend the Legends conversation with the same way it started, the Darth Plagueis novel. So my favorite piece of content from that is actually a one-off line where he's teaching Palpatine, and he mentions that his master, Darth Tenebis, with his master, created a hole in the Force, some 200-300 years ago. And that hole in the Force started the Jedi's connection to the Force breaking down. And the Sith were almost discovered when that happened. And to me, it was just a huge scene in connecting a ton of things, because in episode 1, there's that line between Yoda and Mace where he mentions our connection to the Force is weakening. And this says it started all the way back then. And it kind of makes sense why the Jedi could interact directly with Palpatine and just not know. They were so disconnected from the Force by that Force wound. And I really hope the High Republic makes that canon. That was amazing to me. So that's my favorite thing in canon.
That's awesome.
Rocco is going to sell pops for one of those sabers. I will sell Rocco pops for one of those sabers. Rocco, you need a Funko Pop. Let's get that going.
Yeah.
So I got
Listen to
one
something no one will ever buy.
I got one last lightning round question for us before we go to our final question that I did not tell you guys about. Quick answer on what is your favorite piece of fan made content? And it can be a piece of artwork or cosplay or movie. Like, I'm a huge fan of a local artist does fan made art. Oh God, I'm blanking on his name right now. Dave Pullett art. But my favorite is actually one I think Casey sent to me. It's a fan made movie called Star Wars Origins that's like an Indiana Jones meets Star Wars, where they find a Star Destroyer crashed in the Egyptian desert, and they learn the story of Star Wars, find a lightsaber, and the Star Destroyer takes off, and it just kind of all connects things together. Casey, I'm going to hop to you. Do you have a favorite piece of fan made content?
This is really hard.
Sorry.
No,
This is the
because
hardest question.
there actually is a lot. My immediate thought, just, and I don't think this is the one, but I'll say it, is that fan made movie that was Darth Maul. It was just really well made. I cannot remember what the name of it is or anything like that, but that was pretty rad to see that. So I'm gonna pick that. There's probably mountains of other like pictures and, you know, like the anime and stuff like that, but yeah, for now that's what I'll go with.
Darth Maul Apprentice is the name of that movie. Rocco, do you have a favorite fan made thing?
Honestly, man, I don't really do much of the fan made stuff. So I'm just gonna say the Star Warriors podcast.
Oh
You
yeah,
know?
I mean, it's great fan made
I mean,
content.
I think it's good. Yeah, really
Yeah,
good.
all right.
This
I
guy
mean-
likes it.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
Thanks for the inspirational words here.
our boy Ruben has sent a YouTube link, and it is loading here, so I can't tell you what it is. But
Star Wars in 99 seconds.
Star Wars in 99 seconds. That's his favorite thing, apparently. Moses, do you have a favorite piece of fan made content?
I mean, I've watched so many. I don't remember any in particular, at least titles. It's just they've always been stuff that I'll watch. I think one that I enjoyed was it called Dark Redemption with Mara Jade? There was a fan film called like that. And I just remember if I'm remembering it correctly, the production was pretty good. And I was just like, and that was old too. And I was just like watching, I was like, oh, like these guys can make a movie.
I think it was good because you and I were still in film school. So
Yeah, I was around that time too.
And yes, it is called Dark Redemption.
So yeah, that was one that stuck with me. But I mean, art is always good. I mean, even like there's Grogu right there, which was just done by an artist who they allowed. There was at Disney World. It was art festival week or whatever, and he had all these paintings that he had done himself, and so that was a pretty good one.
Cool. Chris, you got something?
I do. I love going to conventions and going to artist alleys and strolling the different booths and checking out what these people have to offer. And usually it's some cool Star Wars stuff. But I remember going to Star Wars Celebration in Orlando, and Casey was there, and I found this Obi-Wan piece. It's a longer, thinner piece, and it's him. Basically, he's meditating outside of his hut, and the really neat thing about it is like he's center and very much of the the concentration of the painting, but Tatooine is just like spanning out behind him, which is a really neat effect of just how empty and alone he's not empty, but how alone he was on Tatooine. I think I really love that piece, and I haven't hung it up yet though. I gotta do that.
Awesome. And finally, Colin, do you have a favorite fan-made content other than the Darth Vader logo you are building down there?
Well, first, Chris, that actually sounds really cool. You got to hang that up and make sure that it's visible for us to see the next time we do this. But my fan-made content is actually something I came across when I was a freshman in college. My freshman roommate went to school with a bunch of guys that make us look like we're noobs when it comes to Star Wars nerddom. they developed a movie called To Know a Jedi, and he shared it with me. At the time, it was like released in February of 2004. I want to say it was, and it was the whole concept of this guy was like, you know what, I'm a nerd. I'm gonna learn how to build a lightsaber, and he and his friends, they build a lightsaber, and they're like, well, if the lightsabers are real, maybe the Force is real, and it just kind of like devolves from there. I mean, it was a very well done 2004 project that was made in high school, but were made by high school kids. But it was just such a fun thing that they built these lightsabers. They're fighting in a cornfield. They're fighting on a dock on a lake and things like that. It's just, they're all using their real names throughout the whole course of the movie. That's the thing. None of them have fake names. They're all just like, yeah, we're in high school and we're learning about the Force. But it sticks with me to this day. 20 some odd years, almost 20 years later, is just so great. Such an awesome movie. You guys have to find it again. It's called To Know a Jedi.
It
And
shows
to
up
answer
pretty
that
quick.
question, I have been working on this since we started. So
Just about an hour.
about an hour.
Yep.
And this is what we're looking at right now. We've got 2 pieces that'll probably go together like this. There are 5 bags altogether, and I am almost through 2 bags.
I don't think you'll finish it by the end of the episode.
I thought
but
I
you're
would.
doing great so far. Well, let's take it into our last question of the night. What does Star Wars mean to you? Casey, take it from the top.
Another horrible question. It's because it's like there's so many things, right? And when you think about Star Wars, for me, someone's gonna say hope, and I'm not gonna say hope. Thought about it, not gonna do it. It's happiness, you know. If you guys are How I Met Your Mother fans, like when Ted Mosby is dating that girl and she doesn't like Star Wars, and then you know, the guy's like telling him like how much Star Wars means to him, and you have no idea. And it's his warm blanket, it's his chicken soup, it is his, you know,
Yep.
soul. And I remember watching that scene and being like, I know. Like, could you imagine a girl who doesn't like Star Wars with me? I would die. So so that's it. It's happiness.
I mean, to that point, I mean, Casey, when would you ever have a sick day from school and probably not watch one of the 3 Star Wars movies?
Oh, there's a Return of the Jedi every time.
Yeah.
That, go
I was
ahead.
gonna say, you have sick days just because you want to stay home and watch Star Wars.
Ruben, it means family to you. Yeah.
Come on, man.
Really quickly,
Me too.
though, How I Met Your Mother is an amazing TV series that aged poorly, but the minute you
yeah.
mentioned it, I thought of the Ewok line, where
They
Barney
had
had-
lines.
well, no, it was
Oh,
a date of birth line to know what you thought of Ewoks determined whether or not Barney would date you. Because if you were cute, that meant you were young enough that when episode 6 came out, you thought Ewoks were cute.
I remember that too, actually.
As I said, it's a TV show that aged poorly really
Yeah.
quickly. So, Rocco, let's hop over to you. What does Star Wars mean to you?
I mean, I was thanks, Ruben. But yeah, I mean, family. It really it is family. Like you spend so much time with these characters, and I mean, to the point that was just made about having a stay at home sick from school. I was watching all 3 Star Wars movies. I mean, it just happened, and it was like they were just there. I got to know them, like you would get to know family members, and it every time you put one of the movies on, it was like spending time with a family member that you just love to be around. And like when they had announced that Disney would be continuing on with, 7, 8, and 9, and just waiting for The Force Awakens to come out. For me, it was less this new movie was coming out and more like I'm going to see my family that I haven't seen in a while. And that was the biggest like driver and just my biggest excitement for seeing The Force Awakens. I mean, I'm going to see Princess Leia and Han and Chewie and Luke. I mean, not till the end, but regardless, I still got to see him. And that's what it is. I mean, you make these connections and then throughout the movies and the shows, you have this sense of family. I mean, you have, Luke and Leia and their a strange relationship with their father. But then you look at their father, Anakin, and his, brother-sister relationship to Ahsoka and the brother-father relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan. And you take all of these things into account in every single thing that happens throughout all of the movies and all of the shows. When you see an Ahsoka interaction and she talks about Anakin, or she talks, or she's fighting Vader, there are such heavier implications because they are family. They're not just random characters that met each other one time. And if you're a huge fan, like all of us here in this room are, what those implications are. In Rebels when Ahsoka fought Vader and she said, "I won't leave you this time." How heavy that line was. After earlier in the show, we were talking about how she walked away from the Jedi Order. Again, it's family. It'll always be family.
Oh, Rocco, you brought up that line of Ahsoka not leaving and that whole scene, and like emotions just poured over me. That is such an amazing scene. And just a quick reminder, we are 2 more answers away from our giveaway of the Scout Trooper. When we get to Colin, we will be doing our giveaway. So make sure you comment to get a chance to win the Scout Trooper head, the Lego head, and have fun putting that together like Colin has the entire time. With that, Moses, will hop to you. What does Star Wars mean to you?
There's a couple things. One, it brings out the kid in me. I mean, I'm just a child when it comes to Star Wars. And, it always kind of gets me giddy, and I can be having the worst day ever and throw me anything Star Wars and I'm good. But I think the most important thing is connections, man. Like, I'm in my 40s. I'm antisocial. Most of the friends I've made have been the friends that I kind of had connections with through college, and now they live in different parts of the country. But you know what? You guys right here, I literally talk to you guys all every single day because we love this thing. And half of you I haven't even met in person, but you know more about me than than a lot of other people, because we talk every day and we'll discuss Star Wars, which leads into other parts of our lives. And I love that connection, and as someone who, isn't a big fan of being social, anybody mentions Star Wars and then I'm just like, yo, let's talk, let's sit down, come on, let's chat. So I think it's just like the connections, because, the love we can have for Star Wars can be shared so easily. And it has so many aspects to it, whether it's the comics because you love comics, whether it's the movies because you love the movies, because of the cartoons, because of the toys, because of the pop figures. It's grown so much that it can just like, you can connect with people on so many levels with this. And yeah, like, I love all you guys here, man. Like, we talk literally every day and it's awesome. I like to be able to think of something Star Wars, and my first thought is, let me jump on our group chat so we can discuss this. And I'm thankful for that. And that's why I love Star Wars.
Awesome.
Dude,
Here,
love
here.
you, man.
Here,
We
here,
love
here.
you.
Here.
Yeah, Ruben, to your same thing. The family, we're all in different parts of the country. Not all of us are in Rochester. We're spread pretty far out. And we get together more than once a month to talk Star Wars in person. Now that you got the comic show going, we're almost every day up on the group chat for Star Wars, talking Star Wars and related content. And I love these chats. Some days it's a shitty day at work and you look down at your phone and you see some great conversation going on and you realize you're 25 messages behind that you need to catch up on that.
Yep.
And you're like, what happened? What did I miss in the past hour? But we have some awesome conversations. So, Chris, let's hop over to you. What does Star Wars mean to you?
I do want to mention it's usually like 50 plus if it's the day after The Mandalorian. But for me, but I'll touch on everything basically what people have said right here. I mean, I think we're getting down to the point. Mine is friendship. And you see it throughout all of the Star Wars media, but starting with the prequels, you have two brothers, right? A story about two brothers, and it's tragic, but they are best friends. And one of my favorite scenes is when they part ways for the very last time in Revenge of the Sith. But then you go to the OT, and you have our main group of characters we grew up with, friends to the end, and all that. And then even the sequel trilogy. I mean, those relationships were great too. You know what? I like that central trio, and then the other ones that, you know, kind of were like the satellite friends. But that's one of the biggest things for me. But I'll put it this way: Casey and I have been friends for almost 30 years, and one thing that we really share was this bond of Star Wars. We've gone to the Smithsonian, we've gone to celebrations, and so much more. And without him, you know, this wouldn't exist, because really he's the central hub here. And just want to, you know, that's what Star Wars is to me. It's always been about friendship and being able to share this all with you, and just, you know, sharing something that is as simple as a movie, a science fiction movie that we all just love. And that right there, the core of it, being able to come together and talk about it like we do.
Yeah.
You're getting a bunch of 40-year-olds to cry right now, everybody. Jeez.
That's
Stop. Turn the camera off.
Yeah, I don't want to be on
Love or hate the last movie, like Lando's line, "We had each other," is the reason it gets to me. Like that line, just like exactly.
Yes. Yes.
And dude, Ruben, he's one of us here in the group, in the chat, and it sucks that you're not part of this convo. I know you got to do your thing, but
yeah,
we miss you, dude.
we do miss you, Dan. It is a great icebreaker. Chris, really quickly, to your point, when Obi-Wan and Anakin split for the last time, the emotion driven into the audiobook of the novelization is just so sad, because you get Anakin's thoughts, which you don't get in the movie. And he's having a thought like, I really feel like we need to go with Obi-Wan. That this is a point that if I don't go with him to fight Grievous, something's going to happen, and this will be the last time I see him. And in a way, it's the last time Anakin sees him, because the next time he sees him, he's Darth Vader. And that just was huge in the audiobook, the way they revealed that. So,
and even in the movie, for as badly written as it is, it gives you the goosebumps when they just kind of say that goodbye right there.
Yep. So we're going to get Colin's answer. This is going to be your last chance to comment while Colin's answering before we give away that other Lego set as we continue. Oh, there's the Lego set we're giving away. Well, we continue to have Colin answer and watch him build Darth Vader's head. So, Colin, what does Star Wars mean to you?
It means everything you guys have said. And I don't know, maybe I missed it. I mean, what am I, distracted or something? But it means all of those bundled into one thing, and that is just love. It is absolute love. I mean, tell me that when you watch those original 9 movies, or excuse me, the original 3, or any of them that have that gigantic blast and that fanfare at the very beginning, tell me you don't get that swelling in your chest, that lump in your throat, and you start to blink a little fast, because that's what I do. I just remember going, I was 14 when episode 1 came out in theaters, and I thought, you know what, this is going to be just absolutely amazing because I am watching a Star Wars movie live in theaters for the very first time. And then I got to do it again with episode 7, starting a new series. And it was just so amazing. I just remember sitting there and I hadn't heard anything yet in terms of story. And there I was watching the scroll of text, and I'm trying not to cry, both times going on a date with someone at this point. And I'm just like, no, I'm a man. I'm not going to cry. But it's like, it's Star Wars. This is a thing I grew up. It's a thing I love. And I will go back to video games that I've played over and over again, purely because I love that universe. I love the sound you hear when a lightsaber hisses on, the sound of a blaster fire, the John Williams unbelievable score, which arguably is the reason why Star Wars is as wonderful as it is, because we just have this incredible music that just is sort of the backbone of all of it. And you can't not love it if you've grown up with it. I will say it's hard as an adult to try to learn it. I have people that, it's a hard access, but if you love it, you will never, ever stop. And you will have such a community around you. You will have such a family that's built through that community. And all those words come together through that incredibly powerful emotion that we get from these movies, from these shows, from these books.
Yeah. We are going to do our giveaway right now. If we want to show Colin building Darth Vader a little bit more as a drum roll to our giveaway. And I do want to give a shout out to some of our commenters, tearing up when The Force Awakens starts. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We got the feeling was magical. Yep. The comment can say the F word, but we're trying to keep our PG-13 rating.
I think he almost added an I in there and then was like, oh, wait.
Don, I'm going to play to your comment that it's 20th century modern mythology. That's 100% true.
Yeah, for sure.
And Colin, you have a request from Matt here to stay on the video until you have Vader finished. We're tailing towards the end of the podcast, but if you want to stay live,
leave it on.
Yeah, if you want to watch this shot through a potato, you are absolutely welcome to do so.
So with that, Chris, can I hop over to you to help us with our giveaway?
Chris, you're on mute.
You're muted.
Back. Sorry. At the climax of the show, too, right? The most exciting point. So we've had plenty of you out there commenting and interacting with us. So thank you so much. But now is the golden hour. So let's see who won the Lego set. I'm gonna hit my random name shuffler. It is Zach.
Woo!
Hey!
Yay! Zach, congratulations.
I haven't even quoted. That's a sweet giveaway. So there you go.
So
thank you, Zach, for joining us. You're going to be the.
How are we giving that over to Zach?
Go ahead, Jake.
I was going to say, how are we giving that over to him? Does he need to message us, or will we message him to get details?
Zach, if you could email us at what's the best email, guys, for this?
Just email
us at don't.
Yeah.
Or just message
DFAT Entertainment
on Facebook.
Or on the Facebook.
Yeah.
There you go.
Message us right there on the Facebook privately.
I hope you live in the continental United States. Because if not, we're going to have to redraw.
Yes. Oh, that'll be anticlimactic.
Well, congrats, Zach. And if anyone want to stick around for my final answer, what Star Wars means to me, it's
I'm gonna
really. Go. Oh, bye, bye. a way of life. It is a modern myth. I've fallen into the lore of it, and it's opened so many doors to me as well. Not only from like you guys recommending content, but I had heard about Joseph Campbell from The Power of Myth, and he actually consulted with George Lucas and talked about the mythology around Star Wars, and that opened up a door to a whole bunch of mythology and philosophy and psychology that I like to read. And Star Wars is philosophy too. The battle between good and evil, the light and the dark side, and even some of the more intense lore that I hope gets explored, like the Bendu and how powerful he is. Star Wars is just, it's almost a way of life at this point for me, because it is that modern myth that has so much meaning to it. So
Awesome answer.
thanks guys for meeting live. We at DFAT Entertainment have a ton of stuff for you to consume outside of this. Just pluggables on this podcast alone. We get a podcast out. We have a comic review podcast that usually is Chris and Rocco, and I'll do a roundtable of pluggables. Personally, I am the host of the Campfire Chats and the Bull and Moose Tavern podcast on DFAT Entertainment. Casey, we'll hop to you to see if you got anything to plug.
Tower Light Talk podcast, also part of DFAT Entertainment, and that's pop culture news, news and all that fun stuff. I'll go over to I'll popcorn over to Rocco.
Popcorn, hot potato. I am
I
the
hate
one.
that. Sorry.
Right? It's okay. It's okay. I am one of the hosts of the most illustrious podcast known to mankind called the Critical Mass Podcast. It is a show that absolutely no one should listen to. It's awful. You can just see the disgusted looks on everyone's faces. But it's called Critical Mass Podcast. We are part of the DFAT family. Please check us out. I'm also one of the guys that does the Star Warriors podcast, obviously, but the comic book stuff with Chris. And yeah, it's just awesome.
And you have a new show coming.
Yes, that's right. We have a new show. Oh, yes, thank you for the reminder. Listen Up Casuals is a new show hosted by myself and Chris here. And we are targeting at people that maybe love things like The Falcon and Winter Soldier, but have never read the comic, or love The Mandalorian, but have never seen a Star Wars movie. We're going to break it down for you. We're going to tell you what we loved, what we hated, what stayed true to the comics, and what didn't. So tune in next week.
Chris, we'll hop over to you. Do you have any other pluggables that haven't been plugged already?
I'll just reinforce those. That was pitch perfect, Rocco. Looking forward to that show. Absolutely. Listen Up Casuals. Also today, the Star Warriors comic episode for the Marvel Comics from April that dropped today. So that's the latest episode from that. And then Tower Light Talk is coming back this week. We've been on a break, but the Geekly News is sure to return, and look forward to a new episode from Casey and I later on in the week.
Colin, do you have anything to plug other than the fact you're still building Darth Vader down
It's
there?
taking forever right now.
What bag are you on?
I'm on bag number 3 at this point. So we're making progress, but as Darth Vader would say, impressive, most impressive, but not a Jedi yet, because he's a British man. Anyway, I personally don't have anything live as of yet, but I'm actually working on some content over at my YouTube channel. We got a couple things in the pipeline, hoping to release in the next couple of weeks, but nothing's final yet. You keep your ear to the ground on that, but you can also find me on Twitter at GamerSense, and you can see me on Instagram as the same, at GamerSense.
Awesome. And Moses, do you have any pluggables?
Oh, absolutely not. I just like it when I'm a guest on all the stuff you guys mentioned.
Cool. So thanks guys for meeting live. This has been a ton of fun today. I think it's a great way to celebrate May the 4th and really reflect on what Star Wars means to us and our favorite moments. But also, thank you to all of our live viewers and commenters. You make our show great when we're live, so we can have our comments and have lightning round questions thanks to Bob.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks,
Thanks,
Jake,
Bob.
for hosting.
You're welcome.
Thanks everyone.
Yeah,
For
thank
everyone
you
who
all.
tuned
This
in
has been
too.
fun.
Yeah.
The force bless you, everyone.
May the
And
4th
bless
be with
Mzak.
you.
Yeah.
Yes. Congrats, Mzak. And with that, let's see if I can quickly reach my inner Chewbacca to let us go.
Oh, here we are. Saw that coming.